fantasies I want to explore and a larger appetite for intimacy than my partner. This is coming from a man.
Okay.
How do I find balance with this when what they want to explore is different, aka non-existent?
Oh, the first thing that comes in is that the story you're telling yourself. I mean, what I love, and actually it's like very awkward at first if you're not used to having this type of conversation, but is like the fears, loves, and desires, right? And so sitting in a space with your partner and holding space for the other, and you set a timer and you say, okay, what are your fears? And you share authentically your fears with the other, very truthfully, authentically. You get like 2 to 5 minutes.
This was a process I learned from Layla Martin, by the way. So just want to give her a shout out.
Amazing. And then doing that with what do I love about you, and then the desires. And sometimes being able to hold your partner's truth can be very triggering in that space. But it's creating the polarity and the intimacy to be able to share authentically actually what you really love, or maybe you want to invite in.
There is a certain level of truth and authenticity that both of you have to be willing and able to say yes to even be able to do a process like that. Mm-hmm. So often, though, where I think you're getting to the heart of it is this lack of intimacy in a relationship, especially for the feminine counterpart. So this question was coming from a man. Mm-hmm. A masculine, there again, what we're looking for in the polarity of the relationship, it's easier at a more sometimes surface physical, depending on how disassociated you are to your feelings, all of your emotions, all of who you are, to want to stay at a superficial level with your sexuality and your sensuality. And often women, the feminine counterpart in the feminine body with the vulva, with the womb, access to the goddess, already carrying intense emotions in her body, is wanting to, so either she has not fully surrendered into her ability to feel all of that, to love herself unconditionally and begin to process all of that so that she can surrender more and more into the polarity of the two of you, right? And so that would be her work to do. And your work would be, how are you able to hold space? How deep are you penetrating your feminine counterpart, your woman? If, again, you've been together for a long time in the early stages, it's easy to do it. Pheromones, limerence is pushing you toward it. All of the courting things that really give the masculine undivided attention for that feminine, which really opens her up, opens her flower. But you live together day in and day out, and you're kind of going through the motions, and that opening is never being inspired. It may seem like the feminine counterpart is just asexual. In reality, her sexuality has gone dormant. Why? Is because she doesn't realize she can awaken it herself. She's relying on you to awaken it in her. But in reality, she could awaken that on her own. And then if you're lucky, you might receive the benefits of that and mm-hmm. even credit yourself for it. But you have not conjured the goddess. She has conjured the goddess. And you can participate in that as well by showing up and giving her all of your undivided attention and really getting to know her on a level that often we just take for granted with mm-hmm. our closest people. It's confirmatory bias. I think I know you and I spend every day with you, and so therefore I don't really penetrate to a deeper level of intimacy with you. I take it for granted, and that is not a turn on for the feminine polarity. Mm-hmm. And if she doesn't know how to turn herself on, her sexuality would go dormant. So I would be looking at less that taking the narrative of, oh, this is how it is, and mm-hmm. go a little bit deeper.
Allow yourself to receive as well, like what she could potentially be wanting to share.
Exactly. So we're really talking about intimacy and the ability to into me see that really opens you both up into another level of what's possible in the sensual sexual relationship.
Even like maybe you order a few things and see if she's into it, but really being able to have a conversation about what that looks like. Oh, well, would you be okay if I ordered a crop? Maybe I like to be spanked. Who knows? But it isn't until you actually start to go and open yourself up to be able to share that will you actually know.
Well, and I think what you just spoke upon is the adventure of the sacred union portal, which is you go from, oh, wow, this feels really good, just to even be able to share our deepest, darkest desires, to actually get real and 100 with each other, which most relationships are not. So the lack of polarity comes from that, the lack of that real intimacy and truth, which is required the longer you're together to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And most people avoid it, and so they assume, oh, I like sex more than my partner is asexual. Yeah. When in reality, when you go into it and you start to actually, so in the beginning, it can be a lot of low-hanging fruit where you're discovering things about each other and it feels really good and the polarity is strong. And then, you begin to expand, and maybe one of the partners says, ooh, I want to explore this.
Yeah, but it's giving time and space also for that to nurture itself and to cultivate, right? It's like, jumping into the pussy when it's not ready for sex. And it's actually, I need a little bit of lubrication there. Yeah. I need just a little bit to start to warm me up and get me, you said, conjuring the goddess. I need to start to get the juices flowing to see if I actually like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there may be a fantasy, for example, and there's so many ways that you can negotiate inside your relationship to explore that. Yeah. That feels safe, because what you said, right?
The number has to be spoken.
Yes. Well, the communication and the safety.
Yes.
And if your nervous system feels safe with exploring the fantasy but not the reality, that's okay too. But what you will find is you do go on that expansive journey, and you will continue to expand. You don't get there. That's actually the good news, is that you never get there, no matter how long you've been with someone or how much you have expanded. There's always more growth. There's always more opportunity. It's pure potentiality. Yeah. That is what I see the goddess force energy as being. What we call the dark is really just the unknown, and there's pure potentiality in that. And so having the willingness to really go in there and explore it, and that comes through the sacred union portal, especially in sexuality. With opposite polarities.
Saying yes to the depth, right? We've talked about this with our relationships. Okay, here's another layer of depth. And it's either a lot of relationships will split because they've said, okay, this is as far as I'm willing to go at my level of depth, or you keep saying yes and you go another layer deeper to actually share more of who you really are. I love the opportunity to explore even further in sexuality or in sex with your partner is the shadow, right? Because what's happening is that shadow is the unhealthy shadow that might play out in pornography, an obsession with pornography, or having mistresses or prostitutes, whatever that looks like for you. But being able to actually share your shadows with your partner is where a lot of those unhealthy shadows become healthy shadows. Mm-hmm. And actually they can play out so beautifully in the relationship together, rather than kind of stepping into that shadow self that feels all the shame and guilt. And you can actually turn that into feeling joy and elation by sharing that shadow with your partner through sex.
Because either way, that energy is going to express itself.